This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello, I'm Tinsay Gabriel, your host for this hour's news. Join us as we bring you the latest stories and updates from across Africa. Let's start with the news about Africa. Africa needs to have 2 permanent seats with veto power at the UNSC, says Polish scholar. The proposal to grant Africa 2 permanent seats on the UN Security Council without veto powers is humiliating, according to renowned Polish scholar Professor Andrzej Polis. A recent proposal to reform the UN Security Council recommends granting Africa 2 permanent seats in a bid to make the body more representative. However, the plan has drawn sharp criticism as the proposed seats would lack veto powers privileges reserved for the 5 existing permanent members: the US, UK, France, Russia, and China. Critics contend that offering Africa permanent membership without veto authority amounts to symbolic inclusion, perpetuating inequality and reinforcing the continent's marginalization in global decision-making. The Pulse of Africa sits down with renowned Polish scholar Professor Andrzej Polis to discuss Africa's evolving role in global politics and the urgent need for international institutions to reflect this new reality. Polis, a professor at the University of Warlock, whose research focuses on contemporary political developments in sub-Saharan Africa, emphasized that Africa's voice must not only be heard, but meaningfully represented in global decision-making arenas. He particularly highlighted the importance of granting Africa permanent seats with veto power on the UN Security Council. Professor Polis criticized the proposal to allocate 2 permanent seats to Africa without veto powers, calling it humiliating.
African states that became independent, obviously Ethiopia was independent long before the decolonization processes, but around the year 1960, that's the year of Africa, when 18 states became decolonized, they had to adopt the rules and conditions of international system that they were unable to create. The states were inborn into international system, and the United Nations Security Council reflect the situation of 1945 when the council has been created, and demands of Africans, like the highest number of cases in front of the Security Council, these are actually the sub-Saharan African cases, right? And I think that the proposal by the US that 2 permanent seats will be granted for Africa, but without a veto power, is humiliating.
He argues that the international system largely reflects the power dynamics that emerged after World War II. In this context, he urged that Europe and African Union alike must adapt to these new realities. He emphasized that fairness and effective cooperation requires establishing minimum common denominators that enable constructive engagement between all parties.
As I said, international system reflects the powers in international systems that existed after the end of the World War II. The world has changed, and the institutions shall reflect this change. The point is that you've got the treaty basis of any international institutions, and you have to redefine the treaty, renegotiate the treaty in order to change, for example, permanent membership in UN Security Council. But Africa is also involved in multiple forms of bilateral cooperations. We've got FOCAC with China. We had 2 summits in between US and Africa. And as I said, next month we are going to have African Union, European Union summits. So there is a lot of going on in terms of diplomatic activity.
Africa is stepping up efforts to build a cleaner, greener transport future, though the rapid adoption of electric vehicles and sustainable mobility policies. Africa Mobility Week took place in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia from 14th to 16th of October 2025, bringing together various stakeholders from across Africa. Policymakers, investors, and innovators across the continent are working to reduce transport-related emissions, strengthen regional collaboration, and expand EV infrastructure. Ethiopia has emerged as one of the leaders in this transition, implementing a ban on fossil fuel-powered and second-hand vehicles, launching a green transport initiative, and investing heavily in renewable energy and charging networks. With its abundant hydropower resources, the country offers a cost-effective and sustainable energy base for e-mobility. In an exclusive interview with POA, Engineer Joy Makambe, Permanent Secretary at Zimbabwe's Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development, underscored the need for policy harmonization.
Our problems and our solutions and our successes are the same. So when we meet in one place, we get to even standardize policies so that at the end of the day, we can move together. We can make use of infrastructure that is in the various countries because of the standards that we will have set as Africa. So whatever you can use in Ethiopia can be used in Zimbabwe, can be used in Zambia, in Malawi, due to the standardization.
Dr. Felix Amuhanwa of Ghana's University of Energy and Natural Resources highlighted that countries like Ethiopia, Egypt, and Kenya are leading the incentives and policy reforms.
If you look into Africa, you can realize that there are multiple countries that are trying to adopt the EV vehicles. So, for example, if you look at areas in like in Ethiopia, if you look at areas like in Egypt, and in Kenya, there are areas where, or there are countries that have really adopted the EVs, trying to also have different policy interventions in areas of tax reduction. And also what they try to do is to see how they can also improve upon their electricity reliability to be able to onboard the EV vehicles.
Africa's electric mobility momentum signals a decisive step toward energy independence, green jobs, and zero-emission transport future. President Emerson Mnangagwa has launched the National Youth Empowerment Strategy, urging young Zimbabweans to drive the country's economy transformation through innovation, entrepreneurship, and skills development. Speaking at the National Youth Empowerment Symposium at the Harar Agriculture Showgrounds, held under the theme Empower the Youth, Secure the Future, the president said the youth are driving force of Zimbabwe's modernization and industrialization agenda. The new strategy is anchored on 5 pillars: economic empowerment, digital transformation, education and skills development, health and well-being, and governance, reinforced by gender equality and climate action. Mnangagwa urged young people to embrace digital technologies, noting that digital skills are the new literacy, and directed the Ministry of Youth Empowerment to integrate them across all institutions. He also encouraged financial institutions to design products tailored for young entrepreneurs. The 2-day symposium brought together youth organizations, development partners, government ministries, the private sector, and diplomats. The president said the launch reflects government's commitment to building an inclusive economy, calling on young people to go forth boldly with passion and creativity to help shape Zimbabwe's future. Tanzania has introduced French, Chinese, and Arabic as optional subjects in primary school national exams for the first time. Pupils in 115 schools will take the Class 4 national assessments with these new languages options, part of the revised 2014 education and training policy. Each pupil can choose only one of the 3 languages, and with most schools offering Arabic or French and a few offering Chinese. This new subject brings the total number of tested subjects to 9, but overall results will focus on the pupils' best performing subjects. Core subjects include science, mathematics, geography, arts and sports, Swahili, English, and Tanzanian history and civics. This initiative aims to strengthen multilingual skills and prepare Tanzanian pupils for a more globally connected future. Morocco has been recognized by the United Nations as a leading example of economic development and regional cooperation. The UNCTAD Secretary General Rebecca Greenspan praised Morocco during talks in Geneva, highlighting its efficient port operations, streamlined trade systems, and strong government-private sector partnerships. Greenspan also noted Morocco's ability to attract foreign investment despite global declines, thanks to its diversified economy and growing manufacturing capabilities. She commended the country for sharing expertise with other developing nations through South-South partnerships. King Mohammed VI Atlantic Initiative which seeks to strengthen collaboration among Atlantic-facing African countries, was a key topic during the discussions. Morocco's Industry and Trade Minister, Raed Mazzour, described the talks as highly productive, emphasizing Morocco's role as a reliable strategic partner, offering adaptable development models. During his visit for the UNC TAD's 16th session, Mazzour also met with international organizations and chaired a ministerial meeting on the global system of trade preferences among developing countries. Moving on to business headlines, Namibia on Wednesday launched a new 5-year strategic plan aimed at integrating foreign policy with trade and investment promotion to strengthen the country's global economic positioning and support its long-term development goals. Speaking at the launch in Windhoek, the capital, Minister of International Relations and Trade, Selma Ashipala Masevi, said the 2025-2030 strategic plan marks a major milestone for Namibia's diplomacy as it adapts to shifting global trade partners, digital transformation, and geopolitical changes. The plan is a compass geared towards advancing peace, security, and stability, prosperity, sustained economic growth, trade and investment, reduced income inequality, youth and women empowerment, environmental sustainability, and promotion of our cultural heritage, she said. The strategy seeks to position Namibia more strategically at regional, continental, and global levels, in line with Vision 2030, the African Union's Agenda 2063, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Ashipala Masevi said. The new plan outlines 7 national development priorities, including economic diplomacy, peace and security, sustainable development, youth and women empowerment, and environmental sustainability, she said. It also emphasizes strengthening Namibia's participation in regional frameworks such as the Southern African Development Community and the African Continental Free Trade Area, the minister said. Finally, Ghana's digital payments ecosystem has grown dramatically over the past decade, as stated by Matilda Asante-Assedu, second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, at the MOBEX Africa Tech Expo in Accra. Mobile money users surged from 4.9 million in 2015 to 24 million in 2025, with transaction values rising from 266 million cedis to 3.02 trillion cedis. This now accounts for half of Ghana's formal payment flows, marking digital rails the primary retail infrastructure connecting households, merchants, and small businesses. Payments are not just going digital, they are digital, Asante-Assedu said, stressing the need for greater access, efficiency, and inclusion while combating fraud and instability. Digital channels enable faster government payments, empower small businesses, and combined with mobile agents and offline modes, overcome barriers like distance and literacy. The central bank is advancing instant payments, interoperability, agent quality, and complaints handling while piloting the ECD's digital currency with an evidence-based, equitable approach. That's it for this hour. We're grateful for your time, and we'll be back with more news soon.